Hi, my name is Jen Morgan, and I run a strategic brand marketing agency called Radically Distinct. And just last week, I was talking with a leader in the manufacturing industry, aerospace manufacturing, and they're looking at their relationship with Boeing and considering a pivot into medical. And the big question was, how would we tell that story? And I thought this is a great question, applicable to lots of different types of companies, even to people who are looking at their career, their job, and thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do if said business doesn't exist anymore? So if you're looking at a pivot, you're going to need to create a new narrative about where you come from, your experience, how that has provides value to this new market. And how you go about doing that is something that I've done for the last 2 decades. For the first 10 years, I produced creative media for multinational companies, publicly traded companies like Coke, Jeep, Ford. And then the recession of '08 hit, and my team and I pivoted and started a small business consulting arm, which we launched with my personal brand website, and then offered support to entrepreneurs and executives who are also trying to pivot or to take their business to the next level. And we eventually grew that to helping companies that are at $50 million, and we've helped them double their revenue. And today I'm going to give you the story outline that we use to go from strategic concept or strategic idea for their business to new narrative, plus some notes on how to think about this from the perspective of a pivot. Brand story. What is a brand story? Brand story is the standardized narrative for why your business exists and how it uniquely provides value in your customer's journey. It is a big picture marketing concept. It's not something that you can deliver all at one time. It's something that you deliver over time. And this provides context for all members of your team to be on the same page, to sing the same song. And I don't mean robotically reading a script. I'm sure you've had a salesperson call you and they're clearly reading a script and you're like, what? I don't want that. That's not what I mean. I mean that your brand story is the outline of your Star Wars feature length film. And having this defined provides clarity for how do we take this strategy to market and focus for marketing and sales teams when they're trying to work together to figure out how do we create demand and then how do we convert that demand into sales. Now, this is the brand story outline that we use to help companies to go from the strategic idea to a new narrative. And it's important to have the high level outline so that you can organize these concepts into something that can be used to tell a story. First of all, you have your objective. The objective is going to be the reason why the business is going this path and what success looks like. It's really important to have this in place or people are going to go all over the place with their ideas, and you got to be able to have an anchor, and the objective is your anchor. It helps us make decisions about if that is, although maybe it's a great idea, if it's the right idea at this time. And then what success looks like so that everybody who's participating in this venture has an idea of the goal, right? Now, then you have your characters. These are the players of this big epic story that we're creating. They are your company, the archetype of your company, and the persona that you guys hold in the marketplace, or to other people that you want to, how you want to position and present the brand of the company. And then you have the customer persona, which is a more detailed version of your target market. You'll have a few different customer personas that give more context to who these people actually are. And then you have an enemy. An enemy can be something that we're going to overcome together. It could be something that is a big challenge that is like an internal thing that we need to overcome. It could be something external, it could be something internal. But good stories always have something that we can rally together to overcome. And then we have our probable buyer scenario. This is what's going on in your target customer's life when what you're offering is most likely. It's important to understand that only 6% of your audience is ready to buy what you sell when you get in front of them. That means 94% of people aren't really ready to be interested. So what's going on in that 6% of people's lives that makes them be ready to hear what it is that we have to say? That's your probable buyer scenario. And you probably have a few of those. Rally point. Rally point. I love the idea start with why, but that's a very hard thing to do because why actually there's a few different times that we use why from a marketing perspective, and one of them is here in the rally point. In this part, it's about the moment of truth, the moment in which I, the buyer, decide I'm going to take an action, and that action is aligned with what it is that you're offering me. That's our moment of truth. And then we have our value proposition statement. Our value proposition statement, it comes before your list of features and benefits. It's the high level context for the problem that you're going to help your customer, your potential customer, overcome with the solution that you're bringing to the table, and why that is uniquely different than other options. And that's like the high level paragraph that you want to be able to surmise. You might have 3 pages of a value proposition document, but we're going to have a paragraph that puts it together at the top in a simple way for us to quickly get an understanding of what we're about to learn about you, or to figure out where we want to ask more questions. Transformation. This is the bigger picture, greater purpose that we, the proprietor and the customer, are moving towards. This is the reason that we're going to engage in this big picture, why this matters to us. This is where our values all lie, where we find out if these are the type of people that we want to get involved with in the future. Now, here are some of my notes for a pivot. If you're thinking about a pivot, these are some things you should be considering. First of all, your objective in a pivot is to find product market fit. It's important, if you're an established company, that you realize that you are going back to startup land when it comes to this pivot. You don't have clarity of if the product that you have and the market that you have are going to work out. You don't know if there's going to be tons of people going in that direction, and if you can actually compete. You don't know any of those things yet. So if we're in the place of product market fit, it's important to understand that how you get your foot in the door is not necessarily what you're going to scale up around. And noting that creates a lot more creative space for you to get to know the people that you're trying to help serve. I recommend that you treat this initiative as a new company or a new division of your company, so that you have like a clearly defined, home base. I would recommend like a minimum viable website that is speaking directly to this particular market, and it is separate from the mothership, but links to it so that I can go and see how you are over there. Your probable buyer scenario, most likely you have a general idea. I recommend research and interviews. Research and interviews can be very helpful to the people that you want to get to know and that you want to do business with. As well as you, obviously, they're very helpful to you because you're going to have greater understanding of what's going on in their life. But if you do a formal research project or interviewing project, and you then take a sampling of that market and then give it back to those customers, they can then see what their peers are doing or what their peers are saying. That's very valuable to them. It's also valuable if you're coming from one industry to another industry, just the way you'll create context around the questions that you're asking will be significantly different than what they might be getting from their trade associations. So research interview is a really important part that might even be your first value proposition offer. And I recommend that you spend time and energy creating a good research project so that you can learn about your customers before you scale up any big marketing initiative. Value proposition statement. I recommend that you start with a conversation that might seem really obvious to people who've been in sales for a long time, but sometimes when we are so used to doing what we're doing, we kind of forgot how we got here. We forgot how it started with one first conversation and some initial insights that happen through a one-on-one engagement. So you want to basically break down that value proposition and make it real simple at the beginning, so that you're not spending a whole bunch of time in R&D before you've really even engaged with the people that are in the market and are experiencing what's going on in their life right now. And then this one, which you can't see underneath me, is about the transformation. The transformation is going to be one of two things. It's going to be something that people are running towards, something that they want to become, or something that they're running away from, something that they're hoping does not happen. And it's important to understand this, the main driver and how it relates to what it is that you're trying to get people to sell, because this is how we're going to connect with them emotionally. People make decisions emotionally and then rationalize them with their minds. Unfortunately, objective thinking is not something that the majority of people do. Certainly there are people who really do break things down and they're very logical with their thinking, but primarily people are going by their gut and they're going based on past experience and not being objective. So having an understanding of where they are emotionally is the first step to being able to engage with people to change their mind or to be able to give them new opportunities or new ideas. People don't people are generally skeptical of people who are trying to sell them stuff. And so what you're doing by understanding where people are emotionally is making it easy to open them up, right? So you can't force people to open up. You can only influence them by how you go into the communication. And so by connecting with people emotionally, where they are and what it is that they want and what drives them, you are putting yourself into a situation in which they're like opening to the idea. And that's what you need to do when we're starting to think about putting together our messaging. Now, I want to just point something out. I said I think you need a minimum viable website if you're a business and you're trying to pivot into a new industry. And I wanted to give you clarity of the difference between a minimum viable website outline and the brand story outline, because I consistently have people trying to put their entire story on their website, especially in a minimum viable situation. Minimum viable websites are about getting something up quickly so that we can get it in the market and we can get some traction with it and we can get some feedback and we can evolve it. There's an old way of doing websites where we kind of spend a whole bunch of time writing it out and then we do our layouts and then we hand out our layouts to development. A lot of people have gone through that kind of a website development. Minimum viable is something that we use a lot more nowadays because things change so fast. You don't want to get caught up building a website for 6 months. You want to get a website up in like a month. And so how you do that is by figuring out what is the minimum amount of stuff that we have to do to get up and figure out if this is the direction we want to go so we can fail fast, right? So you're going to want to your objective is not important to the people who are going to be going to this website. That's important internally to the people who are creating your marketing and to the company leaders. Characters, you don't tell people your character, you act as your character. You outreach to the characters, right? So you don't need to put those necessarily out there. You might define who it is that you're trying to target and put some words there, but you don't need to go into depth about the character and the details about them. That's just not needed. And then your probable buyer scenario. This is something that you're going to learn and something that you're going to use for content development, but it's not necessarily something that's leading the website. And I'm pointing these things out because we really want to start with something that's a little further down in the brand story, which is that rally point. That rally point that's like they've realized they're at this moment and they need another solution. And you're going to provide this transformation, which is that bigger picture, right? Those are the two things you're trying to lead that minimum viable website with. In a simple way is just think about like the greatest taglines you ever heard, Nike's Just Do It. That relates to so many different types of people who are competitive and athletic. And when you're in the B2B space, which is where I work a lot, it's not going to be always so blingy, right? Because as consumer products, it needs to be even more simple and to the point. But in the B2B space, it might be a little bit more complex. So you might have more of a paragraph, but it's a concept. It's a way to get people interested in what you're about that says so much in so little. And then we have a value proposition statement. Value proposition statement comes before the detail. Very important to know that because a lot of times people are giving us so much detail before we even got a context as to why we should listen to you. And so you've got to make sure that following that catchy concept that drew me in, you got to really give me a reason to stay here. What's the problem you're solving and why should I listen anymore to you versus other people who might be wanting to have the similar conversation. And then we have our social proof. Social proof is logos, companies you've worked with, testimonials, case studies, things like that. And then you can't see it because my head's in the way. It's call to action. Call to action is a very important part of a website that is going to make it really easy for me to see how to move forward. So there you have it. The brand story is how you move your plan from strategic idea to new narrative. It's a critical part of your marketing strategy. Now, it might seem easy enough, but oftentimes when you go do it yourself or with your team, it can become a complete disaster. You'll have a lot of the right pieces, but no cohesive thread to tie it together, which ends up being boring. Or you might have all the right goods from a delivery perspective and all the right targeting from a marketing perspective, but you're sort of too smart for your own good and can't get out of your own way and let the marketing team lead you. And what happens is that you end up in an endless marketing by committee that just doesn't work. So on Wednesday, I'm going to share another post with some coaching about how to overcome the common pitfalls and make the most of your time and your investment when it comes to creating a new narrative for your business. If you like this post, please like it, comment, and share. And, I want to know who's actively working on a pivot. And if you're in the war room and you're masterminding, what's next? Who are we going to be? Or maybe you're out front and you've already identified it and need some help putting together your ideas into a brand story framework, DM me and let's figure out how to get virtual coffee. My name is Jen Morgan. You can learn more about me at radicallydistinct.com.